pushing its way from your speakers. Like a chest-bursting xenomorph is the Filmography Podcast. The only podcast that breaks down film franchises in the most brutal way possible. Sit down, grab that popcorn, and join Jason, Brett, and a co-host for the film dissection you thought you didn't need. Spoilers, Alien 3 is better than Resurrection.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Filmography Podcast, the podcast about films and stuff. On this week's episode, it's going to be solely about the Critters franchise, because they have returned. They've returned in a form of Critters, the new Binge, which is available to watch the first series, 8 episodes on Shudder. It's exclusively to Shudder, the horror sci-fi platform. Now I just want to kick this off because I'm a big fan of Critters, man. Like Critters, I used to watch when I was a teenager, and the first 2 films are really good in my opinion. Really good kind of like PG, kind of parental guidance, kind of horror comedies. Mostly on the horror side, more so comedy, more so horror than comedy. The first film came out in 1986. It kind of had a bad rap of being a Gremlins ripoff, and a lot of creature features came out in that kind of time after Gremlins. Gremlins kind of kicked off that kind of craze, and Critters was, in that kind of firing line of being being called one of the ripoffs. But the actual facts of the matter is that Critters was written before Gremlins even came to theaters and came to cinemas in 1984. So Critters was already like in production more or less during that period. So it kind of had bad luck of coming out just after a couple of years after Gremlins, and kind of got was caught up in that whole creature feature kind of wave. It's weird when you think about, what do I prefer, Gremlins or Critters? They both have their own kind of special place in my heart. Nostalgia is big on both of those movies. Obviously, Gremlins is the bigger name out of the 2 for sure. Gremlins was huge. Like I said, ushered in that wave of creature features like Ghoulies and Munchies and all these weird kind of creature feature movies. I like creature feature movies anyway. If there's anything to do with little critters or creatures and they cause harm and they cause havoc, I'm all for it. Totally down with those films. But yeah, Critters, the first Critters, first off, if you haven't seen Critters, basically it's about these furry aliens. They're probably about maybe 2 feet tall, full of teeth. Mouth are full of teeth, and they're being transported to this asteroid prison to be preserved, so that way they can't do any harm to anyone or anything or whatever. They escape. They steal a ship and they make their way to Earth, and the Galactic Council send out 2 bounty hunters to eliminate them. Now you've got the Brown family. The Brown family, that's the family that gets terrorized by the Critters. You've got Bradley Brown, which is his youngest kid, the main I guess he's the main protagonist. You've got April Brown, his sister, and you've got Jay Brown, his father. I forget what his mother's name is, but yeah, Mrs. Brown, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna call her. But yeah, so it's about basically the Critters lands near this farm. They eat the cattle. All they want to do is eat. So they're these alien, 2 feet tall fur balls with loads of teeth that all they want to do is eat. That's their only thing they think about is eating. They have blood red glowing eyes, and they are quite terrifying. Like as a kid, I remember being quite scared of the Critters. The idea of a group of them jumping on you and eating you is quite horrible, as it is. And I've always really enjoyed the Critters franchise. I've always liked the Krite. as they're called by the Galactic Council in the movie. The Krite, as they are, as their species is known. I've always liked the idea of just, like I said, killer furballs. I think that's a really cool concept for a monster movie, and I think it delivers a really, really good monster movie. It came out with a sequel called Critters 2, the main course, in 1988, and that just upped the ante. Kind of similar to Gremlins to Gremlins 2, where Gremlins was more of a kind of darker, kind of focused movie, and the sequel was just like go nuts, and it's just like literally a live action cartoon. It's ridiculous. Critters 2 is similar to that, but I think Critters 2 does a lot more things better than the first movie. There's a lot more Krite on screen, so you're seeing the critters more, and they're just creating havoc, eating people, and it's just a fun movie. It's my favourite in the franchise, and I don't think they'll be able to top Critters 2. I think it's a really, really good horror comedy. So that's about basically. Bradley Brown, he's a bit older, a teenager now, and he goes to Grover's Bend to visit his grandma. And at the end of Critters 1, there's critter eggs that are kind of left behind, and two guys find them. I think they say it's like 5 years. 5 years later or 2 years later, I can't decide. I think it's 2 years later. Could be wrong. But yeah, they find these eggs, and they don't know what they are. They just think, oh yeah, we can sell them for a quick buck. So they pass them off as Easter eggs from Europe, and they're not Easter eggs at all. And obviously, of course, as you can tell, the eggs hatch, and you get these critters taking over the town, and it's basically the townspeople banding together to try and get rid of the critters once and for all. It's a really good movie. I still like it. I think it's one of the better 80s creature movies to really, out of all of them. I think it's one of the better ones alongside Gremlins. It came out in 1988. Now that unfortunately that film flopped. It didn't make as much money compared to its budget. It didn't really make much. I think it struggled to even make its money back. Whereas Critters 1 made like almost triple its budget back. It made a lot of money. So Critters 2 was a flop. So that was unfortunate because it's actually a better movie. Excuse me. But yeah, so Critters 3 and 4 were shot back to back and came out in 1992. So quite a way, about 4 years after the fact. They're weaker. They're not as good as the first two films. Critters 3 takes place in this apartment building where Charlie, the bounty hunter, the drunk from the first movie, he's still hunting critters, and a pregnant critter lays eggs under this family's car, and they take the family takes his eggs unknowingly, transports his eggs to their apartment building, and they hatch, of course, and you get these critters in this apartment building. And it's very much a kind of a bore fest, really. The third movie, it's kind of like not really much going on with the third movie. Basically, they eat a guy, and that's it. And then they just got the main cast trying to like escape the building, where Charlie turns up and he's trying to wipe out the Krites as well. This is a fun fact. It's the film debut of Leonardo DiCaprio as a young kid, so that's interesting. He probably doesn't really mention this movie because he's probably embarrassed by it. But all great actors start in really, really bad movies, unless you're Johnny Depp, and then you star in Nightmare on Elm Street. But oh well, I digress. So yeah, basically, Critters 3 ends on a cliffhanger where this space pod gets dropped into the shed bit. Charlie is told, oh yeah, those are the last two critter eggs, you've got to bring them out, we've got to preserve them. Ugh, from the first few movies. He says this. So, he's got to send these two eggs to Ugh, and he accidentally falls inside, and he gets launched to space with the eggs. So Critters 4 takes place like stupidly far, like 2,000 years in the future or something, 200 years in the future, a long time in the future, where space travel happens and stuff. And Critters 4 is about this crew on the ship. they're trying to make their way to Earth. They're counting down their days, and they find the pod that Charlie's in, floating out in space. They pull it up. They open it. The eggs hatch, as they do in the Critters movie. Critters run rampant on the ship. Charlie says we've got to kill them, and etc. And then they eventually meet Ugg and that, and Ugg's a bad guy now, and the kid in this movie trying to be similar to the Leonardo DiCaprio character from the last movie, but it's not the same character. He destroys the last eggs, and then Charlie kills Ugg at the end, and then they fly off to head back to Earth, and that's the end of the franchise for a long time, stupidly long time. So we get to 2019, which is now, and Shudder have released a new series called Critters: The New Binge, an 8-episode series. I'm reluctant to call it a series though, because literally it is a movie just cut into 8 episodes, because the episodes are only like 10 minutes long. So it doesn't feel like a realized serial per se. So right, I'm not gonna spoil this, but I'm just gonna start this off with I really don't think the people who made this knew what Critters was. In this movie, the Critters seem to have a society, a human-like society, run by a president. Yeah, the Critters have a president apparently. Who knew, huh? And they talk to each other a lot more. They have you got subtitles. They talk. They're really silly. They're goofy. And it's really strange. Like, it's just it doesn't feel like Critters, and a lot of the show takes place at daytime, and doesn't have that gloomy, dark lighting that the first 2 movies do. There's some stuff in Critters 2 that is in daytime, but for some reason somehow they make it work, and it's kind of like mostly a montage bit of the Critters causing havoc. But most of this series in the new Binge kind of takes place in daytime. It just doesn't really kind of work, and the Critters are basically played for laughs. They don't come across threatening, scary, or at all horrific in any way. I just feel like it's just whoever put these to screen only saw them as the Gremlins ripoff that they were originally deemed to be, which is not the case, like I've said. It's just very, very disappointing, and the tone is completely wrong. There's no horror here in this show. It is straight up comedy, and the comedy it's not a funny show, guys. It's not funny. It's kind of a bit like, what? What are you doing to Critters? Like, it's been gone for like almost a good 20 years plus, and they come back with this. Are they sure about that? It's really, really disappointing, and it completely shits the bed at the end, and it's really, really disappointing, and I was really upset with how it shit the bed. I don't want to spoil it. I could spoil it, but I don't want to. But then again, I don't really feel like you guys should watch it. So should I spoil it? I don't know. All I'm gonna say, it's gonna be a spoiler, but all I'm gonna say is Critter human hybrid is a thing in this series, and it's awful. It's not good at all. And yeah, the Critters just don't feel like Critters, man. They're like fucking. They're talking to each other like they're little goofballs. It's so silly, and the tone is completely wrong. The first movie in particular had that really dark, kind of scary tone. The Krites looked vicious and intimidatingly scary, even though they're small little furballs. In this, you don't get that. They got massive glowy eyes. They look silly. Like the title of this episode is literally like I say, like the title is, critters are back, but they forgot a budget. They haven't just forgot a budget. They forgot to bring a fucking to bring research of what Critters is, because this series does not do them justice at all. I'm really hoping that Sci-Fi can kind of do them justice with the new movie they're making, because they are making a new movie. There's been photos that have been released that they're making a new movie, and I'm hoping it's nothing like this fucking dumpster fire dog shit that is the new Binge. It's a shame, because I was really excited to see Critters come back. I've been gunning for a Critters remake for the longest time, really, and it's just a shame that we're not going to get it. Well, I'm hoping that the Sci-Fi thing is a remake of the first movie, but by the sounds of it, it's probably going to be just like Critters 5. So we'll see. If you like Critters, stick to the movies. I wouldn't bother going for this series. Thankfully, I just signed up for the 7-day trial to watch it, so I didn't spend any money. If you're really that intrigued, maybe you could go and watch it. Just sign up for the 7 days and watch it. I did find a quick question to people in the UK. It's not available in the UK yet, so I had to get a VPN and change my location to be able to watch it. So be aware of that if you do plan to watch it. People in the UK, it's not available like straight off. You got to get a VPN, like I did. I don't know how legal that is, but fuck it, whatever. I wanted to watch it because I really was looking forward to Critters. Now, speaking of long dead franchises, because Critters was once a long dead franchise, I asked on the group, Filmography podcast group. You can find us at facebook.com/group/Filmography podcast. I did ask the question, what long dead film franchises would you like to see make a return? And you guys kind of threw your hats in the ring and gave me some comments. Aaron Philpott comments a Toxic Avenger, but he does think that we're getting one. Also, he would like to see Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy as an essential edition. Saul Montagu comments, not that old, but the 2012 Dredd needs a sequel. Oh yes, it does. I totally agree with you. That film's great. It ripped off The Raid though. If you guys haven't seen The Raid, you need to see The Raid. My favourite action movie ever. The Raid is fucking wicked. Dredd film is really good. It does take the premise of Raid and just make it its own. But yeah, totally needs a sequel. Totally does. Great movie. Dan Odes says he wouldn't say this is long dead, but he would really like to see a reboot of the Matrix franchise. Yeah, I think maybe next year, 2020, it'd be 21 years old, or this year, 20 years old at this point. Yeah, I think it'd be that. I think it's time to revisit that franchise. I think because the first movie was great. I don't know how well it's held up because I've not watched it for a long time. And the sequels were, there were so-so sequels. So, yeah, I think it's time for that. I really do. I think it's a good time to revisit that universe and that franchise. Sean Lawyer says, I want to see Michael Keaton carry on the Burton Batman verse into a Batman Beyond sequel. that is a cool idea, because I've always loved the Michael Keaton Batman. Obviously, the original Batman, 1989 Batman, is my Batman. Like, hell yes, fucking love Michael Keaton as Batman. It's great. Yeah, I think a sequel to Batman Returns could be a really good go. Don't think we'll get it though, but I think if they ignored Batman Forever and Batman and Robin and just went for a sequel after Batman Returns, I think that would be really cool. Batman Returns, Batman Beyond. I think that's a really cool idea. Don't know if we'll get it though. DC seems to be very much in this mind of, oh, we need a piece of that Marvel pie. So keep your fingers crossed, but I don't think we'll see it happening in a very long time. Ulysses Hernandez comments, not really a film franchise, but I'm really getting my wish. I'm already getting my wish. But Spawn, yeah, Spawn. I think I think Todd McFarlane is doing his own movie. I think he's directing it and everything, so that should be interesting. The 90s Spawn movie is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's awful but entertaining at the same time. It got a bit of a guilty pleasure. Tracy Smith comments, Hellraiser could do with a serious update. Yeah, it's funny because Hellraiser's been on this weird tear where it's been just sequelized into the ground, and it's just nothing's really been good since Hellraiser 2, in my opinion. So yeah, that could do with a fresh coat of paint, maybe a remake. I forget the fucking. Oh man, I forget. There's two directors. They directed a film called Inside, which is a French horror movie that I love. They were on the cards to make the Hellraiser remake, but I don't think they're doing it anymore. And it's like, that's a shame because they're really good. That's a shame, but I think it needs to have a proper remake, a complete reboot of the franchise, and do a remake. I agree. I think it'd be really good. Really good to see that, because I think the sequelitis is not being good to that franchise at all. And that concludes those guys. I also asked. I launched the group and I asked favorite film of all time and why. Sean Lawyer comments, Goodfellas, just badass start to finish. Ray, Robert, and Joe are just the embodiment of Mafia Gunman. Couldn't agree more, man. It's one of my favourites. I love Casino as well. Casino is a great movie in that kind of vein. With Joe Pesci in that. That's another really good one. Brad Constable, The Green Mile, the whole concept, plot and scenery, character development, music, the tone and the whole movie is just superb, and they couldn't have picked better actors to portray the roles. It's definitely an all-time favourite of mine. Yeah, I've not seen that film in a long time though, so maybe I need to recap my memory on that one. But I remember really enjoying it when I saw it. Last time I watched it. Yeah, good, nice pick. Saul Montago, Hot Fuzz, Master Prince of Edgar Wright, amazing directing. In my view, perfect British comedy. Cool. I've not seen Hot Fuzz. Crazy to say, but I've not seen Hot Fuzz. I've never been into the those kind of comedy. I'm not really a comedy fan, so those kind of high comedy stuff, I'm not really into that. So, but it's cool that you love it, man. It's awesome. Adam Ortiz comments, one of my absolute favourites is the Royal Tenenbaums. I can't even pronounce that word. Tenenbaums. I don't know what it is. It just says such a dynamic story with amazing characters. Not seen that one. You got to hit me up with that. Suk Dylan comments, hard to say what my all time is. Inglourious Basterds is one of my favourites. Haven't seen that one, which is annoying because I really like Quentin Tarantino, so I may have to get on that as soon as possible. Dan Odes or Waterworld, interesting pick, man. Interesting pick, but each to their own. Aaron Philpott comments, The Shining. It had me spellbound from start to finish. The first time I watched it, and every subsequent time I've seen it since. I was very much affected by that movie, not necessarily in a good way. It unlocked a gateway to a very dark side of my personality and took me quite a while to rein it in. I was rather impressible at that time, laugh out loud. Another great film, Rocky. It's a tears to glory movie about a man on his luck who gets the chance to be the champion of the world and doesn't have a happy ending. Perfect. I identify with Rocky too. Outcast, I wanted an afterthought in the minds of those who he puts before himself, but he never gives up. Rocky's a really good one, but Rocky is fucking a great movie. David Montes de Oca Tioka? I don't know how you pronounce your name, sorry sir. He says Star Wars. I love the story of the characters. No need to say much more. Yeah, Star Wars, the original trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies ever made, in my opinion. Empire Strikes Back is one of my favourite films of all time as well. My favourite film of all time, and getting to that, is Alien. Ridley Scott's 1979 horror masterpiece. Seriously, Alien is the quintessential sci-fi horror in terms of that. It is just a master use of building suspension, building their characters, doing a swerve on okay, who's the main character, and then not showing the creature until later on, and then you realise these guys are completely screwed. And it's just a great crescendo of just tension, horror, and downright bloody suspense, and it's fantastic. My favourite film of all time. I love it. I can put it on right now, and I can just enjoy myself with some popcorn and just enjoy it. Just had its 40th anniversary. Can you believe that, guys? It's older than me, and I'm old. So yeah, my favourite film, Alien, is fucking great. Going back to Critters though, man, are you guys gonna watch it? If you've seen it, what are your thoughts on it? Comment down below. And let me know if you've enjoyed this episode. I've been Jason, this has been the Filmography Podcast. Thank you ever so much for listening. If you like what you hear here, if you like what you hear and want to listen to more, you can find us on Podbean at filmographypodcast.podbean.com. You can find us on Spotify, just search Filmography Podcast on there, and obviously the YouTube channel is where you are now, or possibly if you're not, just look us up on YouTube and we're there. Hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified for more videos from, more episodes, should I say, from the Filmography Podcast. Thank you guys, and I'll speak to you soon.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Filmography Podcast for more monstrous discussions about films we love and hate. Be sure to let us know what films you want covered in the future.